We will, Mr. Losh. We will demo. Doesn't feel like a million miles ago, which is a measure of distance, not time, that we were here.
Yeah, it was the first game of the day yesterday on Cafe, of course. It took us 2 hours to finish that game. I do hope for everyone's happy. We'll have a repeat, and it's just straight to the point. No issues today. We had them all yesterday.
We got them out of the way.
Smooth show, and yeah, you never know. You don't know. It could be long, could not be long. We don't know.
We'll get them out of the system. And you know, and now it's smooth sailing, smooth driving, and back towards Cafe, as we sort of talked about. I'm excited to see what 9Z can do. I hope to see more of what ENX team can do, really. I know it's the sort of...
It surprised me yesterday.
Yeah. They got themselves back to sort of OT. They put in a pressure against Black Dragons, a great team. But I still want to see more, as strange as it is, because of how strangely paced yesterday's game was, right?
Yeah, very start-stop, wasn't it?
Start-stop. Big flick rounds, big slip-up rounds. It had everything. And sometimes you don't want a game to have everything. You want it to just have a readable set of fundamentals. As a treat.
Obviously for ENX, though, still getting that point, though, that must fill them with
huge.
A little bit of confidence. Because at the end of the day, not every team in the league can say they have a point. I don't think anyone would expect that there's actually Liquid who are the side who's bottom after free play days. So all credit to ENX, a point on the board, just still give them that little bit of boost in morale. Think, you know what? We probably actually could have took 2 points yesterday if we didn't bottle a 1v5.
I think that's the sort of split of it, right? But then there's also the moment where it's like, oh, well, there was also the other side of that where they won it out from a huge hold, even with fluff things. That's what I mean about the game just being oddly paced, because both teams probably are sitting there going, we should have had more points regardless of how that went. And you know, it's the cost now to try and prove it. For all we've talked about 9Z and their great performance yesterday, what they were able to make to come together against very tough opponents, here this is it's ENX's team. ENX team's chance to sort of prove that otherwise. They'll start their clear here towards the top of red. They're getting a read on the Echo drones. They're playing against a mix of sort of intel utility that's a bit mobile with the Echo, with the Valkyrie. They can maybe get themselves a bit more of a premonition onto it. And then what else goes with great camera work demo? You're right, 4 C4s.
Yeah, I will say, though, that the IQ has got a lot of value, though. This is probably one of the best IQ picks I've seen in a while, just based on the defense operator selection. You've got the Valcams, obviously, Echo as well. It's also going to be pretty helpful just with finding the mute jammers. You know, you can shoot them through the floor and help you with the droning a little bit as well. So, yeah, the IQ should get a lot of value. You mentioned about all the C4s that are going to be there, but look, the IQ can spot them out, so nobody from ENX should be dying to C4s. However, a missed drone.
What?
Tuku just sat up inside a freezer, looked like, for the majority of that round, and just appears he gets one. But the key thing is, though, Flute, very swiftly trade it off, which is good to see.
Hello? And then that happens. Angels just hops a barricade into a shotgun that was more than happy.
Wait, was that
to
a
make friends?
Was the Echo through the drone? And then maybe he thought, oh, it's the Echo, but he didn't realize there's another guy beside him.
Oh my god. Well, I guess we're still in exactly the same cafe we were in yesterday, demo.
Is nobody holding the site? Is it just not even a rotating laundry? What's going on?
Well, there's the cover from the vertical. They're going for the plant itself as the Blitz is just trying to make friends. Sexy Cake. Now, they didn't actually feel confident sticking the plant. They've moved off, got one more kill for the Troubles. Florio is going to get this logged in, and were they just behind the whole time? I'm piecing this together as seemingly they are. Demo. Okay. Okay. I usually stand up as we get into a game, you know, sort of move with the energy of the game itself. I'm gonna stand up now because it's gonna be more of this.
like, I know it's two teams, so kind of first time in T1. You still think, surely it has to be better than that.
I mean, it's a firm but fair comment, I think. If you sort of break down that round piece by piece, you would be...
Mistron upstairs, right? One guy, Mistron. How?
And downstairs in library as well. Theoretically on where the positioning
the
of...
Deimos, just, you know, kamikaze in. For what, right?
Yep.
No site setup at all. Nobody inside a reading room. Not even a head hole inside a laundry. Nothing. So a Blitz just walks in. Some guy tried a flank without any info. Just Echo shotgun running just head first into a Blitz.
And all of that happening after I pointed out how it was a bit of a big utility and camera hold from 9Z. And yeah, we didn't see how much the IQ got rid of outside of the 3 C4s they removed very, very well, but I mean, there's a line, there's a limit, and there's a false start. ENX team, they open up with their first round here. They're gonna maybe stick themselves on, not quite with the direct-to-fight aspirations they had before, but, well, that doesn't last very long. The Blitz on the chase, there's a bit of a back and forth. The Mozzie is caught. There is the cover that comes from the top. Now they have more of an impression of somebody else there, but with how quickly they've been in to get towards red, they're actually going to try and peel themselves away so they don't get encircled by 9Z. A good first take there on the player demo.
Yeah, good stuff from ENX. No response though from 9Z, not able to pick up a trade. Looks as though that ENX, they kind of have their game plan, don't they? You know, there's Deimos and the Blitz have now been brought twice in a row, and obviously those two operators work really well together. You know, Deimos tracks, Blitz hunts. So yeah, good combination. But I think in terms of 9Z and the roamers that are upstairs still, really, how much of an impact is a roaming Doc going to have on the lineup? Not a lot. He just has a gun. That's really it. Echo has been down over towards Raiden. I wonder maybe could Doc stim him through the floor, which it looks as though that is the case. So you do get a bit of value out from the Doc, but in terms of any operators who can really get up there and do a bit of denial, you know, maybe with C4s to take on the Blitz, it's going to be none. So I think the Blitz is probably the scariest thing that 9Z have to try and go against.
Well, the track on the Doc, up top, just sort of reveal that, well, he's actually dropped his way down towards library, and there's the chance at the fight on the windows. The Blitz was getting close, then they have the Banshee to give some of the awareness. The Blitz pushes all the way down the stairs, but they're just going to hold for now. Get this important vertical done, probably rotate their way back round and just plant around the machinery itself. They don't need to fully stretch and extend on towards the opposite side and the dining if they can get this bit secured, but you can see that it's been read by 9Z. They're rotating their way towards red stairs. They've repositioned where the Mozzie was and actually playing even more aggressive than that as well. Right underneath the opening, ready for a fight on pillars. It's being pinged either side, and it's Angels. Wins it out, drifts by the Deimos, but 15 seconds, the Blitz starts to make a move, and 9Z finally find their first. Almost caught out as they throw down the smoke. It's traded back and forth, 9 seconds, and they're going to tuck a corner here with a strong secondary to get it done, a 2 versus 2, but with them sticking the plant, they're trying to get the distance covered as much as possible. They see the Blitz in a post-plant situation. They're trying to get the pints around here, Demo. One on one side, one on the other, but the Blitz can be that reactive force. If they can get themselves that first strike, they can really set the pace of this, and they are begging them to come within striking distance here of the knife and the blind. The double stack up. There's the loose, there's the catch, there's the pushback, trying to bait the kill as they did at the start, and it works, but the trade comes out, leaving just the Blitz in 18 seconds. Sexy Cake holding the distance, the Dog gets the smash, cannot get the grab the pistol. ENX get themselves the second round.
Phenomenal pacing there as well from the Blitz. Really good patience, knowing that, look, they have to come to us. I don't have to push out into them. I just sit at the door. I'm going to get a guaranteed blind onto whoever wants to swing me. I have my Habana beside me to get that kill if needed. And yes, it comes down into the 1v1, but you're not losing that as the Blitz. You're not. You're in a position where your feet are going to be covered because obviously there's a table. Doc has to get close towards you, an easy flash, an easy kill. Yeah, all credit Sexy Cake. Great bit of blitz play. Said that was going to be an issue for them. They didn't really have a strong counter to it. Yeah, that's blitz for you. My favorite.
An early timeout here from 9Z after only the opening 2 rounds. And, you know, there are mistakes sort of being made by both sides, but it's not... It doesn't feel like this is an apt reaction from my perspective. My perspective is one, I do not know how the comms are inside the team, right?
The coach will know something's off.
The coach will know that something's off, yeah. But it's one of those things that's harder to gauge because you could only know the measurements of what we see in front of us, and they obviously, quite obviously, believe that, well, this is entirely going away, we need to cut this momentum.
Well, let's see if that timeout is good for 9Z. And obviously for ENX, things have been looking pretty okay. I think obviously the Deimos and the Blitz were working really well for them in just being able to hunt the roamers. They've had no issues with it at all. You can see obviously for 9Z, they're trying to roam. You know, they're trying to stretch their legs. They're not just trying to sit into the site and just hope that the enemy team just messes up their execute. No. They want to take the fight to them. They want to play aggressive, very in-your-face kind of style, which certainly a map like Cafe, it does lend itself into that. You know, you think about spawn peaks as well, are a very common thing that you would see in Cafe with the amount of windows that you have. You've got 3 sets of staircases to flank or retreat if needed. So yeah, the aggressive playstyle, as much as what hasn't been working for them at the moment in this game, certainly is still something that will play into their hands.
Now with the Tachanka on the board. Not the most common operator in the current swing of things, but there are situations on this site especially where you can bounce the Shumika launchers, potentially if they're going for a plant on towards Freezer, or even just going for the drop on towards it. If you know they're a team that likes to take that approach, which, well, we know ENX are a team that likes to take that approach, you can get yourself sort of safely tucked behind sink, behind coffee, and just bounce those around over and over again and make the drop have to be a bit more active. At this point, though, with the shield, with the sense, we saw them play, Demo, that sort of sense trick, the coverage on the drop itself, get it locked off from VIP and make sure that the players can get themselves down through the hatch without being entirely sort of caught out. There's a lot of space being given here towards ENX by 9Z, letting them set up the verticals. There's no immediate pressure, I say, as some bullets start to fly through the beams, but it doesn't feel like they're actively trying to find a fight here.
Obviously with a Monty, a little bit more of a slower approach because you don't have that same oomph that you would get with a Blitz, but still, in terms of information and having that safety feature that you have with that full extension of the shield, yeah, I think for a very slow, methodical approach, which certainly Kitchen is one of those sites where the attackers just have to be a little bit more careful of what they do. Bit of an issue there, it looks like, for 9Z. Yes, they've got the opening pick, but Will has decided to say, you know what? I think it's too easy if we just get, you know, give ourselves a lead. So I'll take that back. I'll take it in my own hands.
Well, the team kill aside, they move their way in towards coat check. They might not know somebody's now in VIP. They'll get the reveal as they set in for the fight, but they are being surrounded and overstaying their welcome here to Chanka. They're just, yeah, gotta get out of there. Or they don't.
No way.
They pop their way back ground, get one more kill, and that was at least 3, if not 4 players. And this is what I was talking about the fire here. Easy to bounce around, so the pressure has to come from the other ENX players as they do get on towards Nitro. The Tachanka goes down. Sexy K drops the shield, just takes the fight with the revolver. But 8 seconds here. They still have to put the pressure on the plant, and there's an Echo drone. Really, this is just theirs to lock out here. They're not even attempting it. Or was there an Echo at the very end? I saw it light up as planting for a split second.
Yep, out of time, out of luck. Echo, again, being that win con. Very strange position, you know, from the Tachanka. You'd think that's an operator that you would like to keep for the plant denial. Keep them, you know, deep in towards Bakery. You can have that long lineup that you have with the incendiary launcher. he was playing pretty aggro. You know, over towards the bar area, was trying to flame off the stairs and try and keep them back at that stage. Still end up getting a kill as well. So really weird. They kind of see that position of the Tachanka, but it has worked for them. I think maybe even it's like you have that Tachanka as that kind of opening layer that the attackers have to go through, and then you still have the Echo as the reserve feature, I guess. Maybe that's what they were hoping to go for. But yeah, overall for 9Z, just ran the clock down. ENX, just time really, wasn't it? Just not quick enough. Needed to move a lot faster with clearing away the areas over towards restaurant. Obviously, for the bans coming in, it makes a lot of sense. ENX, what did they just struggle with? An Echo. You look at 9Z, what they've been struggling with? Yeah, the Blitz. So both teams opting for operators that have been used pretty effectively against them.
Now, they do take the round after their timeout, 9Z, and, you know, as we sort of commented on with the Tachanka, there was a couple of still questionable moments in the grand scheme of that Tachanka's round. Killed a teammate, did get a kill, which they probably shouldn't have with how much pressure was around them, but hey, you can't sort of question a result. And then still got encircled and dropped off before really getting the taste of their gadget. So I'm wondering what the sort of read there was, of whether they felt they need to be more aggressive, step in at certain points, be not afraid of the firefights, don't let them set up and encircle you. The Monty is back on the board here from Sexy Cake. They still have a shield to try and drive themselves behind, but 9Z, they're in some ways a failure to sort of launch on the sort of gun game here, right? It's been quite solid lockouts, quite solid trade games from ENX team, which 9Z haven't quite been able to match throughout this. The pressure starts to come over the top, being caught out, droned and pre-fired onto Nitro. Is almost immediately removed there, just chasing a drone.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose the Warden as well. Will come in handy whenever there are still a few flashbangs kicking about from the Nomad. So typically whenever we see Nomads, they like to be on those windows towards Cocktail, and they like to try and get the repels in. Flashbangs out, in comes a swing. Warden just says, that's not happening on my watch. Literally, because he has the watch to turn the goggles on.
He does.
Also, C4 is always handy. You know, whenever you're dealing with this kind of mid-floor, and you know that the enemy are going to go above. Yep, C4s are great. And speaking of C4s, there's 5 of them. I can't remember the last time I've seen 5 C4s on one team.
It's a very particular strategy when you also know they like to play IQ and have played it quite well. Because last round, they found 3 of those C4s of the 4 that they brought. So the response here from 9Z is, let's bring another C4. Surely they can't find all of them. They've got themselves not so many pre-placed. Obviously, there's already been one that's disappeared off the face of this game. And, well, as the IQ almost actually suffers, it's the pressure here from the Monty. Just watched from above. There's a second and a third kill that came through there. And, I mean, it's sort of the comment I made of the previous round. They're encircling and setting themselves up here. But 9Z just seem a bit surprised that every single time they'll hit the Monty, there's at least 2 players watching, and we know that Sexy Cake is a historic shield player. A great dispatch of the final 2, and a flawless from an ENX team that, to be honest, at the start of round 1, we had questions. That sort of gave us a lot of answers of what they can do.
I mean, it's a good attack, but I just think, what are the defense doing?
Yeah.
They're not playing together. All of these kills are just single kills, where it's just this guy's just been caught out because the Monty's there. Also, Will on the Warden, or not on the Warden, on the Mira, had a Mira window still in his pocket.
Attackers
Still had one. What was he saving it for? In case for what?
Oh, right, yeah, you're right. No, it does feel, I don't know, okay.
It's not the same team I've seen last week, or even yesterday.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like it.
I think that's the fairest way of putting it, is this doesn't feel like the 9Z that we have all these expectations for. And yeah, there's how teams play on their day. There's how teams sort of get themselves in towards a series or in towards a setup, but they just feel a bit sort of lost across this. There's, problems that are coming through, maybe in some regards. But you look at the previous games that they've played, Chalet Club and sort of Bank, which did go pretty much all the way, That is, of those three, in my opinion, the most similar. You have a lot of boxer spaces. You have to do coordinated takes. It can get very quick, very sharp. There's windows that you got to protect themselves from with a lot of danger. Not that there isn't in Chalet, not that there isn't in Club, but I think that how strategic you have to be on a map like Bank, for me, relates more to Cafe, and they feel like they are struggling compared to the games that they're able to be a little bit more sort of aggressively loose with. It might be a tale of two halves, though. We find ourselves 3-2-1 here. 9Z, timeout already used. Can they try and at least get themselves even?
So, move into, again, another mid-floor site. This is going to be our mining this time, and this was the great round where Sexy Cake had the blitz and some really good bit of patience as well on his side to lock down that diffuser and just win that post plant. Obviously, this time he doesn't have the blitz available to himself, but still on a shield nonetheless. It is going to be the Blackbeard. Again, for 9Z. Pretty sold on these C4s, aren't they? That's what they're after. That's what they want to use. See if they can find some early picks. And very unfortunate not to actually take out Boxera there, because look at the HP. You can barely see it, but he is still alive. 1 HP or so. Sexy Cake on that shield opens up with the opening pick. And no trade. It's another issue that I'm starting to see from 9Z, Fluke, is they're losing these engagements and getting nothing in return.
Yeah, it's sort of something I commented on a bit in the previous round, is it always feels like ENX have somebody else nearby. Sure, they're building behind Sexy Cake on the shield. It's a classic approach of this game of since shields existed, which is
you're playing to the meta. Yeah.
But it's also like, you have to respond to that. You cannot just give them these free fights, because then they will just do this. Now, at this point, you're thinking, where is the support for this player? You know the pressure's coming through. You know that the coordination is this Valkyrie on towards the back end. They're rotating their way out, and they're almost getting a lucky catch on another fight, but it's Nitro that does supply that support, does supply that sort of backup here, and well, they're traded out with each other. Tuku gets one more on towards Angels. 30 seconds, 3 versus 3 left here. Now, they do not have the shield, but they're still going to start with the idea of a plant. It is Tuku that's in a chance here to try and put the pressure from Pillars, as Box does get Zhao. Gives themselves the momentum. They're still not entirely confident they have the sight, but they have the vertical and they have the watch on the doors. And Pillar, they do not know where they are being watched from. And here it's just, again, ENX having a full read on what 9Z want to do.
Yeah, really good attack again. Really impressive stuff. Obviously, realizing that the win con is get that diffuser down into a bit of a blind spot, and that's exactly where they planted. Just very close onto the double door on Train Museum. And the reason why that's a bit of a blind spot is because of the angles that have been opened up to the attackers. There is no way that a defender can eliminate that player who is going for the plant without exposing themselves to one of those very strong crossfires. Obviously, you've kind of seen the Ash holding that long angle over towards Pillar. Get the other guy in the hatch. Yeah, they can't do anything against that unless maybe a C4 or something could maybe snag up. Even then, it's a difficult one to hit. So yeah, again for ENX, like in the attacks, the shields working really well for them. They're playing around what is strong at the moment. That, of course, being the shield. Sexy Cake, I think, he's been on everything as well. He's done it on the Blitz, he's done it on the Monty, and he's done it on the Blackbeard. You know, a full sweep. We don't see that all too often. Where's the fuse? Final round, get the fuse out.
10 seconds to insertion.
I don't know. I was going to say something about calling for a fuse, but instead we get a quick shuffle round. The Raura combined with the Sense and the Blackbeard. You know, it feels like they're going to go for that take where they dropped down last time. I'm wondering why they didn't go as intently. They sort of got that early pick, which was good. Then a trade came out and things went a little bit away from them. But yesterday they were quite consistent on the pressure around here. They might sniff it out first once again.
Activating soft drone.
You see, obviously, more in terms of the denial. Obviously, the Goyo being brought in, whereas previously we had the Echo and the Tachanka as two forms of denial that you've seen on this site. So I think the Goyo just... it's a lot easier to use. You whack it down, you get the Goyo with a strong gun, bring impacts if needed as well, which may help out against the shields. Goyo, you know, obviously going to waste a lot more time than what the smokes or an echo or obviously even the Tachanka can bring, because it's just pop 30 seconds straight. You know, no issues there. Looks as though ENX with the Aurora, I'm guessing they're probably going to try and block off, like maybe VIP double door and just try and run in. Oh, never mind. Jao has read that like a book.
I was going to say, well, this is sort of the hold that I was expecting, or the take that I was expecting, and how we can get the response to it. And maybe this is why they're not doing it as much as they can, because it's not operating itself very successfully. There's a bit of a sense wall that'll stay its way up for now, and the door gets open. They rotate their way back around, but Jao just holding it down. A great player to be in that position, a very confident player, as Boxera is going to get revealed by that camera. They know exactly where he is. So now this divide becomes very, very tricky to cross, because as soon as he makes contact with one, theoretically 9Z will be able to get it. But it is only a difference of a single kill, and there is a minute 10, and they know where Jao is. So whether they try and operate on towards a single player that has a bit more defense, or go behind the player on their team that's got inside the site itself, it's a risky sort of trade around. If they bait the plant, they know it's going to be a 1 versus 3, technically for a second. There's an important rotate that comes across. They've been able to cut themselves in, but they're about to find themselves revealed to the left-hand side. There it is. Jao gets his third for the round, and now with one through the soft.
EP.
Push and a pressure. Yeah, it's been revealing him since the start, and they've played this very well here in that they haven't just gone for the engagement. There's almost an engagement that comes through. There's one. You cannot get this one locked out. No. An LMG with only 7 shots left. That's the risk against the shotgun. They're going in close, and there it is. Will gets the end of it, but if that had gone away, Demo, I think the rest of the map would soon follow suit.
Yeah, that's a 1v1 that needed to win. Because, yeah, like you mentioned, 5-1 then. Not good for 9Z. Yeah, so Kitchen being the issue for ENX is just a site that they can't attack. They faltered on it both times. You've seen the idea with the Blackbeard and the Aurora, where they're going to block off the doors and then just completely ruin the guy instead of VIP. But the VIP guy said, you know what, I'm not going to let you do that. And they went aggressive. You know, they didn't give them that advantage. And yeah, was able to get 2 of them. At that stage, really difficult then for the 2v3 to win at that stage. Defenders, again, very passive, I felt. Didn't really want to give them any picks if they could. But yeah. 9Z, at least to get the 1 round back to finish off in a 4-2 half, but a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do for 9Z. ENX, I think they're feeling confident. Their rounds have looked strong. If you actually look at yesterday and how ENX performed in the defense, they took a 4-2 defensive half on this map yesterday. So with that logic, they will win 8-4 by that logic.
Which I don't think they can, but I don't want to doubt your numbers.
We're doing how the pros do scrims.
Is this a scrim? Imagine if the game just kept going. And it's like, oh no.
Till each team had full 6 halves, yeah. That'd be funny.
5 seconds remaining.
4-2. And they also still have their time out here, ENX team. So, if they can get themselves on towards a first defense, which is often where teams feel the most confident because it is themselves starting their round, regardless of how they lead in, this will be the strongest first foot. 5-2 gives them so much wiggle room for mistakes to sort of come through and potentially happen. But it's also such a mental boon, right? It's the first time that they've been this. Yeah, well, it might even be the first time that they've been up. I think it is, actually, across the games played here. They're up comfortably. 9Z just need to really buck up their ideas and find that team that we knew to play so well. For all we sort of talked about, oh, they're going to be fighting, they could be a surprise factor. Unfortunately, the only surprise here is a sort of disappointing one, like a birthday party where nobody really shows up. At this point in this early engagement, might be the drive on it. A lot of soft here, the roll of the sense as well, to potentially try and get some of the similar cutoffs. But the weight and the pressure on that flank watch, combined with the hard destruction, are where they might find a loose problem.
One thing that ENX didn't do at all in their defense was roam, I felt. You know, they kind of forfeited a lot of the control over the Black Dragons for a number of their defensive holds. This time you can see actually Nigel out on the roam, being assisted by, I believe that was Sexy Cake on the mute on the white stairs. Again, you would expect that the attackers can deal with just a single roamer, just kind of gotten about the map, but looks as though that Nigel maybe has gotten scared and he's fell back in through the hatch and back into sight. So, yeah, the roam didn't really do anything at all, so no issues at all for 9Z. For them, it's just a case of getting in, doing the general business that you would expect to see from the attackers. Get the vertical operators in, get your butt, get your ram in. As you can hear the skeleton key starting to rattle off. Push these guys out of sight and then eventually rotate over and look for that freezer hatch. But however, the fact that Will has jumped out towards Bakery now, maybe they're going for a front take, which we never really see.
Well, they're taking a lot of time to weigh up their options here, and that's
It's a front take.
Yeah, they're not going to have a lot in case mistakes come out here. And as you said, this is a rarer take. They've got the sense to try and cover off coat check here. They're going to try and get the pinch on that player inside. Now, there is impact or a C4 to get rid of this sense wall, but there's also still a hold on towards Bakery. There needs to be pressure onto the wedding wall, which hasn't come through yet. Look at this rotate, though, from ENX team. They've read it brilliantly. They just step in for the first fight and lock them out. And there's finally the pressure that comes through from Wedding, but the wall not being opened up, and now you don't have an ace and you're going for a front take. That is the worst possible person to lose for this approach. An easy pickup from Sexy Cake, sat waiting and watching, and things have just filtered out. And if I said that there was a disappointing birthday party because nobody showed up, I think ENX team just killed them all before they could get close.
So, obviously I noticed that it was going to be a front take, and the reason why we never really see a front take is it's very difficult to do. And the reason is as follows. Sure, everyone has played Cafe before, you've played it in ranked, played it in casual, whatever it is. Everyone knows the pain of having to swing in through that Bakery double door. Because you can get killed from about 20 different angles. You'll have one guy fighting you from prep, you'll have a guy swinging you from the 20 different positions in behind the Bakery counter. You have to worry about Wedding as well, the little table that actually where Nigel was that was able to get that kill. You've even then got the massive rotate into kitchen that you have to try and fight from. I've even been killed by somebody swinging from coat and has a long angle onto me from coat. It's not fun to play against. Whenever you waste a lot of, I don't say waste, but whenever you use a lot of time to go above, through the verticality, and you maybe have, what, minute 30, minute maybe, to then go and rotate down to Bakery, it doesn't give you enough time. Because Bakery in itself is a long old slog. You have to dump a lot of util, you're going to have to use nades, maybe bring in a Capital, for example, or a Grim to remove that guy behind Bakery. You have to go through a whole number of different steps. The only time we see Bakery have really any part of success is comboing early, like whenever I say early, within the first 2 minutes of the round. It is using the Capital, using the Grim, using the Ying, and then comboing that with a shield rushing at the player down in Bakery. That's the best way to remove that player. If you're trying to run in it dry, which essentially that's what 9Z were trying to go for, was just think, oh, we'll late rotate over and we'll just send the ace in through the double door. That's not going to work. And look what happened. Immediately killed. So that's a bit of just a puzzling thing there, because that was on for the freezer take. It definitely was. Everything was opened up for them. Hatch was there. They just made the wrong choice.
Now, one of the things that will come together here, if the ENX team can push themselves on towards the 3 points, they will actually jump up to be level with total points with 9Z. I'm not entirely sure if the first tiebreaker is head-to-head or round difference, but, well, depending on which way it is, ENX team could theoretically jump 9Z. If head-to-head is the first thing, break their way in towards the top 6, top 5, obviously still with a lot of games to play here, but most importantly, start to really define a divide between the top of the table and the bottom, because there's a lot of top versus bottom games today, and if they otherwise go the way, well then things will become very dicey here. There's an immediate trade and an opening. Nitro gets one, Nigel gets the other, and you've lost your Aruni and your Dokubi. Dokubi is probably more of the painful loss here. Two big DMRs and two big gunners to get out, and Boxera's had a fantastic game so far, but now, without the call and the pressure that can work alongside the Deimos and alongside that sort of just step aggression, it's going to make things a bit awkward. They swing their way in. Minute 10 left here, and there's Angels tearing the head off of Will. Not entirely sure what he was looking for, but the only thing he's found there is the afterlife. They've cut themselves in the middle. Echo is still alive. He's being surrounded, and they're able to gun him down, but they didn't check for the rotate round. A double kill for Nigel. with that down of the player and freezer as well. I thought I saw the outline hiding around the Christmas tree. Presents delivered demo. It's just Cole.
It's nearly July. You're referencing Saint Nick. What's that all about?
There's a Christmas tree in this map. There's loads, actually.
Yeah. Again, I just think ENX at the moment, they're just playing together more, aren't they? Immediately, as soon as someone dies, they get the kill back straight away. If you look, even I like to reference, the FaZe versus Furia game yesterday. You look at the way FaZe were playing. They would lose a body and then get a kill straight back in return. And we talk about FaZe being one of the best teams in the world, if not the best. And ENX are doing something similar. It's a measure of teams who know what they're doing. It's you cannot play into those man deficits the entire time, and that was the big struggle for 9Z and their defenses, was they were losing those engagements and not getting anything back. ENX playing a lot tighter together. They're not leaving each other just hanging out to dry. Yeah, honestly, really, really impressed by them. But it has to be said, just the kills as well. Everyone in ENX is gunning today. There's not a single weak link in the chain.
For the questions I guess we're raising of 9Z, you can raise the same ones here about ENX of like, where have you all been the past few games? It was the
invasion of body snatchers.
It was the stat that I sort of said yesterday, was that only one player over the opening 2, and then it became opening 3 play days for ENX team had gone positive. Otherwise, every single map, all of them had gone negative. And here, as you said, I mean, just look at how much they've re-energized themselves. And yeah, okay, they had very tough opening games, but you can still sort of get an idea of how teams are going to throw themselves into them. This, by comparison, it's not as hard as going up against FaZe. It's not as hard as going up against W7M, but it's still a tough game. And here, they've just absolutely excelled. Nigel is the first to go. Statistic where otherwise it's entirely sort of escaped them getting in on towards that entry, but it's barely been there. This is only, I think, the 3rd time they've been able to get that first kill.
Yeah, it looks as though he got picked off, like, just from the hatch. So, a little bit careless, though, I think, from Nigel to give that kill up, because at that stage, yeah, nobody's going to be able to, to trade you as you die to a guy on the rooftop, so they will be playing it as a 4v5. Obviously, for 9Z, that's good for them, is also taking out the Fenrir, so the traps that have been activated, that's where they will remain. I think, obviously, having, an operator like the Ying is going to be pretty big as well for 9Z, just to maybe give them a little bit more of an oomph in their executes. And you can hear the Candelas going off, but they're actually being shot out by Boxer. He's playing very close in towards Cocktail. Florio will take out the players. He swings in towards Heaven. Now Boxer will fall back, and Angels is there to try and fight with him. This is looking once again really good for ENX.
I mean, this is it, right? They're still in that position above the hatch. They've refused to drop down. They get another one from it. Boxera is still hunting. Sees the player on the window. Scratch it, demo. 9Z were nowhere today. An ENX team ran. Did he do the last round on controller?
I call cap. But, yeah, look.